We are the wise and wicked crones. Got no time for lies, no time for casting stones. Wise and wicked, no time for fears or prevarications. Wise and wicked, gonna rise among the nations. Crones are gonna spread our wisdom around the nations. We are the wise and wicked crones. Wise and wicked crones.
Well, hello there.
Good morning. How are things in the sunny south?
Oh, well, it is sunny. It's lovely here today. Hot, humid. Uh, no complaints about the weather, that's for sure. The cold, wintry, gray, rainy stuff seems to have gone. Yay! How about there?
It's a mild day. It is very overcast. I prefer it cold. I would rather have it really cold and sunny than have it mild and overcast
Yeah, me too.
because then things get a little bit drippy and mushy. We have gotten quite a bit of snow, so there's that's good. So
Yeah,
it's a little, it's fine. It's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, trying to get election signs into frozen ground is not fun. So
Mm,
that's all I'm
mm.
going to say about that.
Yeah, I've posted a few things about my opinions about this. Anyway,
Oh,
well, let's
good.
do our regular thing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wise and Wicked Crones. And I'm just going to start off with our land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge that the land we meet on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Attawandaron, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Also, we acknowledge that Mexico is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mayan, Zapotec, and Mixtec peoples, and now home to 89 recognized indigenous languages and peoples. And
Wonderful.
yes, and I should say I am Peggy Sample, also known as Margarett, especially in the field where I was working. I am a strong woman, and I am sometimes an angry woman, always a kind woman, a mom, a friend, a daughter, all a wife, all those good things. And yeah, today I'm pretty angry. So over to you, Leia.
Hey, well, my name is Leea Nutson. I am a widow. I am a warrior. I'm a political wonk. I am a mother. I'm a grandmother. Did I say knitting? I do love knitting. I love to work out. I like yoga. I like to meditate. I am a humanitarian. And I actually, when I say that I'm a political wonk, the reality of it is I actually hate politics.
Yeah.
I here because I want the world to be a better place, and my kids think I'm absolutely crazy. But anyways,
No, we
being
got to do fight for what we want or what we're going to lose what we have. And anyway, all that stuff. So, disclaimer is this is meant to be for entertainment information purposes only. Everyone is welcome, but if you don't like what you are hearing, just move on. And we will we'll be fine with that. And we also hope that if you like what you're seeing, you will like and subscribe and become part of our Facebook group if you are identifying as a woman. Okay, so we always like to pull an oracle card.
Before
Uh,
you do that, while you're shuffling that, I'm going to read the mission statement so we
oh,
can
I
get.
forgot about that. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. So combined, Peggy and I have accumulated over a century of learning and life experiences. Our mission is to bring you thought-provoking, interesting, and often humorous wisdom that will enhance your life and enlighten your spirit. Nothing is sacred. This is a frank look at life and an open space for discussion, and we welcome you into our world.
We do indeed. We do indeed. Okay, and oh, that one came out. Huh, interesting. So, and I will mention this is the Mother Peace deck by Vicky Noble and Karen. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her last name at the moment. This is the Four of Wands. And this is about celebrating transition from one phase to the next phase. The picture actually depicts celebration of a young woman's menarche first period. So it also is it's when we're going from girlhood to womanhood, womanhood to motherhood, cronehood, all of those transitions. It's about the celebration of that stuff. And our topic, we were going to talk about something really fun, but then something happened with me in my life, and I was like, no, we have to talk about sexual assault and harassment because I was gobsmacked when I was inappropriately touched by someone I am working with in a band that I'm in here. And I was so I mean, you're having fun, and anyone who knows me knows that singing is like my joyous place. And great night, great musician. Hadn't really met him before. Just a fun time. And then at the end of the night, you're saying goodnight, and everybody is huggy and kissy around here, which is I'm cool with that. I'm a huggy kissy person. So you lean in, and then just at that last moment, he changes the angle, so he got my mouth, and I was like, oh, right. Leea doesn't know. She hasn't heard this story yet. She just knows I wanted to change the topic. So he leans in and he does that, and I'm like, okay. And then he does the slide the hand up the side of the ribs and towards the boob. And I was like, what the fuck? And I whammed his arm really hard.
Good for you.
I know, right? As hard as I could. And I was like, huh, don't you try anything like that. I know all the moves. And he said, whoa, you don't know all my moves. And I said, oh, I think I do. And I turned around and I said to Brent and my two friends who were just standing right behind me, I said, he just tried to feel me up. And I was like, and it's like, did you handle it? And I was like, yeah, I handled it. It's like, okay, nobody needs to, go into protector mode. So I had this whole thing of being like astonished, angry, upset, and empowered because I did deal with it immediately and both physically and verbally, and trying to also I still have to work with this guy. So I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, I go home, and then I dreamt about it in the night. And I also dreamt about it also triggered stuff from when I was way younger. Okay. And at that time, of course, I didn't tell anybody. Because we didn't then,
We
right?
because we didn't know and we didn't have the language, and women were objectified for so long that that was kind of considered to be part of the
Normal. Yeah,
yeah.
like guys would
Yeah.
grab your like I think we're a little bit younger than, having the secretaries having a well, no, we not. It was happening.
No, it was happening.
It was
And
happening.
that was but we grew up in that culture.
Yes.
We grew up in that, even if we were young, we still grew up in that culture. We were influenced by things that we heard, things that we saw.
Yep.
I remember my, not to interrupt, but because I have my own story,
That's
but
okay. Yeah, I know.
minor story. My parents used to give wine and cheese parties to the people who were on my dad's, like, under him. He was a manager. And I was 13 and I was allowed to attend the party, and I got all dressed up in my mom's, like, a long skirt and a turtleneck. And I was feeling very grown up. And I was in the living room, and one of the young fellows, he was there with his wife. He was quite drunk. He's like, come on and sit on my lap. And you don't know any better, right? So I'm thinking, because you were taught to be an obedient little girl. So I went and sat on his lap, and then, of course, the whole chair tipped over. And we both fell on the floor. And then his wife came and yelled at him. But I was so, I still remember, I was 13. I'm going to be 68 in a month. I still remember that story. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was 11 or 12, and it was like, and it's so the feeling of being betrayed, the feeling of like, because in my case before, it was someone that I trusted, and here it was this person I'd been having a lot of fun with all evening, and I was just and so I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with all this? And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what course of action to take. So I have a writers group of sisters who, like, honestly, these women, we've been through so much together. So I wrote out what had happened and how I was feeling, and not knowing what to do. I really didn't know what to do. Do I tell everybody? Do I tell nobody? Do I confront it? Do I make it a, like, I really didn't know what to. And because these women all have their own different, I got a lovely variety, but everyone was outraged for me. And what happened was I decided, um, well, I wasn't going to share a microphone with him again. And I also decided I would tell the band leader, who is a woman, and I decided I would tell her, and I would also, okay, I'm still happy to work with this guy, but not close. I want some physical distance, and I will create my own mental distance. Um, and although one of my writer friends said that is sexual assault, you need to charge his ass. And I'm like, well, that likely wouldn't fly where I am. And also, I don't I don't really want to, because I slapped his hand real hard. I slapped his arm away. So he didn't get the feel he was trying for. But it's still. So anyway, and when I told Carrie, who it's her band, and she was outraged for me. And she was like, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, I just want my own microphone. That's all I want. I'd rather not stand close to him. I want my own microphone. And she made that happen. And he arrived late, and so I didn't even have to interact with him until he showed up. But then he starts to try to lean into my microphone, and I'm like this. And my friend said it was hysterical. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And then after the song, he said, well, do you have a cold? And I went, yeah, that's what it is. And I just was, because I'm not going to have any kind of discussion while the show is going on,
No,
right?
of course not. No. And
So
it's
anyway,
you got to take your power back, right? So my mic, get away, my space.
and the problem was, it did steal joy.
Yeah.
It stole joy. Oh, I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah.
And
You want me to tell my story? Or do you want to keep going?
well, no, I'll keep going, because it's like I'm almost over it, but it was stealing my joy. And one of my friends had said, don't let it ruin your, the whole experience. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, he's only around for a couple more weeks, then we're going to get rid of him anyway. There'll be a new guitar player, and there. But I was like a song or two in with, and I went like, no, 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 he is not going to take that away from me. I will ignore him harder, and I will love on the music harder, and I will only focus on his playing, because he's a freaking good guitarist. Um, but I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. So what does he do at the end of the night? I'm over talking to Carrie, and I'm saying, is there anything else I can do? Is there anything else I can do, before I take off? And she's like, no, you're good. And he's over there, and he goes, well, I can tell you what you can do for me. And I just went, and Carrie went, that is really not, you just stop it. And then she turned to me and she said, oh, I wish I'd used a stronger word. I'm like, I'm just ignoring him. And I have a plan if something happens again, that I'm going to say, it really upsets me when you use language like that. It really upsets me when you do stuff like that. Please don't do it. It's an asshole move, and stop it. So that's my next plan.
He's had 2 strikes, so the 3rd strike he's
Oh,
out. I probably would have been a lot more. I would have been more, because what you're feeling, the emotion you're feeling is outrage.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
outrage. That's why you're getting emotional. You're outraged at the injustice and the unfairness of it all, because you did not initiate this. You gave no, you're a married woman. You're not going to give him any indication, and you're not going to, it blows my mind. And I love men. I mean, I gave birth to 2, and I have a stepson and a whole bit, but,
right.
And I've had 2 husbands, but that some men don't get it, and I think the generations are getting better, because my sons are way different than generation.
You know what? I will also say that the men that I have told here have been outraged for me as well.
Sure.
Like, and
But
and guys the same age, like we're, none of us are spring chickens here, right?
I think honestly, your next move is have him kicked out of the band.
Oh, that will be the next thing that happens.
Yeah,
And
for
she's
sure.
ready to do it anyway. Like she said, she's like, he's so good, but he's already been disrespectful to me a little
Yep.
bit, and he had
Yep.
musically been disrespectful. She's the band leader. She gets to have it her way.
Yep.
Um, and he, and so it's like, and then she says, well, it's only 2 more weeks, and I'm like, well, you know what? We'll see how that goes because,
Yeah.
like, I was fine until he made that stupid comment at the end of it, and then again, I was like, ah. And then, oh, and I hadn't been, because there'd been nothing. I guess I had sort of relaxed a little bit, and I was far away from him, so there wasn't anything. But it's like, okay, so now I have to do all the preparing of what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? What am I going to do? And but it's and I kept saying to people, I haven't had to deal with this shit for 30 years. You know?
Doesn't matter. You're a woman. A little bit of lipstick, earrings, and away you go. And they think you're there for the picking. So I kind of have two stories that
Okay.
I'm going to share. The first one isn't so bad. I was just before I got married to my first husband, and I was only 20 years old and quite lovely. And we were we were fixing up this. We had rented the back of an old farmhouse, and I was up on a ladder wearing very short shorts, fixing something. I was doing something, and my husband, the guy was going to be our best man, reached up and grabbed my ass with both hands. And I turned around and I punched him in the face and I said,
Good for
"Don't you
you.
ever do that again." And I never told my then husband. So then fast forward many years later, and my ex-husband was whom I'm still good friends with.
Yeah.
He was a developer. Well, he was a commercial real estate developer guy, and we had these clients, this group of clients that we were very close to, and they started inviting us to social events. So I'm at like 35 years old, around roughly 35 years old or so. And these people were all in like their 60s, right? Late 50s, 60s. So one of the guys I was quite fond of, and I sort of treated him like a surrogate father because I was estranged from my own father at that particular point in time. And he was very kind to us in many ways. Um, so what happened was that time, my daughter unfortunately had experienced kidney stones that like she had a kidney stone the size of my thumbnail, and she was in the hospital for sick kids at the time, and she was having treatments for that. And we were changing the floor in our kitchen, and I was getting ready to go down and see her, and he kindly offered to lift our old flooring in the kitchen up and put down new flooring. And anyways, it happened twice. The first time, I don't even know if Bergen was in the hospital. I guess she was in the hospital at that point in time. My kids were there, and I offered him a cup of coffee. We sat down, we had a cup of coffee, and we were chatting. And then he got up to leave, and he was behind me, and he reached his hand down and slid it down my top and grabbed my breast. And I was only like 35. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I had imagined it or
Oh,
like I was so bewildered, right?
yeah.
So then I had my guard up, and I don't even know if I told my husband at the time, but then a couple of days later he came in to lift up the flooring, and I was in the kitchen and he was lifting up flooring, and then he reached up and he grabbed I don't know what it is about my ass. I have no ass, so I have no idea. Reached up and grabbed my ass, and then I turned around and I slugged him, and he started to laugh. And then he ended up leaving, and I went hysterical. And a good friend of ours who lived down the street happened to drop by a fellow. And I was like hysterical. And he said, "Do you want me to call the police? Do you want me to call the police?" And I went, "No, no, no," because like he was a client of my husband's, right? In a bunch of shopping centers. And and I told my husband, I said, you have to confront him. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. To make matters worse, he started to stalk me. He stalked me
Uh,
for 6 months. To make matters even worse, he owned the shopping center where I was working out of one of the stores as an interior decorator. So he had full access to me, and he would stalk me there. Then he would come to my house and stalk me, ring in the middle of the day. I don't know what he was thinking. I was 35 with three little kids. I had thought of him as a father figure. The betrayal, I know this betrayal, it was outrageous.
Yeah.
And I kept telling my husband, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. And he turned, and my husband, and I don't know why I'm so good friends with him, he turned around and he said to me, I don't believe your story. You're just making things up.
Oh,
And I'm like, why would I make that up? Like, why? But I think
wow.
because he was a client, he was terrified to confront him because he was a big client, he was a developer. And subsequent to that, so the fallout from that was I ended up gaining 50 pounds because if I'm fat, it protects me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I developed this phobia of older men being close to me, near me,
Yeah.
touching, like anywhere in the vicinity. They were not
Yeah.
allowed to get within my space to me. And it took me a very, very long time to deal with it. And on top of that, there's my daughter in the hospital with massive kidney stones. Um, and I remember I submerged the whole thing. So
Yeah.
flash forward the whole Jean Gomeshi thing. Remember when that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That I brought it back. I remembered and I had PTSD all over again, remembering what had happened. And when they talk about like we this is why we need to teach children about sexual assault and children and women and young women and teenage girls. Everybody needs to know the language about sexual assault because if a married woman, university educated at the age of 35, didn't have the language to discuss or develop outrage or to say what had happened to me and how I could cope with it, how do you expect a child?
No.
Because you teach your children to be obedient. And so with my granddaughter, like Addie is funny. Sometimes she'll hug, sometimes she won't. And my sister's like, well, she didn't hug me. And I asked her to. And I said, we don't want her to hug you. If she doesn't want to hug you, she doesn't have to hug you. Because it's, we're teaching her, no, you don't have to do it. If it makes you uncomfortable, if your radar is going off,
I was very strong on teaching my boys saying no and saying yes. So you know how people will do the tickling and the babies will be going and the kids will be no, 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 no,
yeah,
stop, 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 and they don't. I would stop.
yeah.
And they're like, and it's like, do you want me to tickle you? Yeah. Okay. Tickle, 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 tickle. Like that was important to me. So I was teaching consent before it became a thing. And it's probably because, of my experiences, right? And I had the same thing. Older men, oh my God, it took me a long time, a long time. And I never told anybody for 10 years. And then I've hardly told anyone anyway. I mean, everyone knows now that nobody's knowing the details, and I'm not going to talk about the details, but it was again that total sense of
Betrayal.
betrayal.
So
And
I cut off all relations and I said to my husband, we are not entertaining them anymore. No more Christmas dinners. I don't want to be anywhere near him, anywhere in the room. And that actually did come true. And um, to this day, I think that's one of the reasons I've struggled since Bob passed away. And Bob was a kind of a gamine looking guy, like a young looking guy. And I think that's why I can't date because I keep envisioning older older men and like ugh. And I remember that. And that really, 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 really bothers me a whole lot. So that's the one thing. And the other thing I forgot is just escaped my mind now for the time being. But um, it has, we were taught to be nice. We were taught to be obedient. We were taught to be polite. But we were not taught to express outrage. And I think that's why I've kind of flipped and become such a warrior because I refuse. I don't back down.
well, I was so proud of myself that how I responded. I was really, I was really proud of myself
I'm proud of you
because,
too.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
thank you. And it's funny
I
because
am.
how many times have little things happened through the years, and it do you question, oh, did that did did he really try to do that or she? Because there was, oh my gosh, there was this one woman and she was worse than any guy. And it was almost like she got away with more because she was a woman. And I was so uncomfortable. And it would be like, you draw your lines, but anyway, but mostly it's men. I gotta say, it's like I would say 90% of the time it's men,
Yeah,
maybe
it's
more.
predation, and it's really scary because with the way things are going in the world, the pendulum is swinging back to women being vulnerable, and there's I think this whole movement in the States about staying home and the husband taking care of you, and this and women want, and my son said, well, women want that, and I'm like, no,
Oh,
what they want is they don't want that. They just don't, that's not what they're looking for. That's some women may think that's what they're looking for, but when you lose power that you've had, you're not happy. You're
no.
not happy. Just watch The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing, right? And I mean, the whole Me Too movement, where men, almost always men, have used their positions of power to give you work or not give you work, or have a job or not have a job. And I mean, God, I remember that. I remember, applying for a job, and it was like it was an icky feeling. It was an icky feeling where that I didn't. I left and I was like, I'm not working for that guy because he was already yucky.
Yucky.
And it was only going to progress, right? And then I also remember um not being interested in sleeping with a director at one point when I was an actor. And I didn't work for him again. Now, were the two things connected?
But you see, a lot of men, and this is just my belief. A lot of men who feel like they have no power in the world, in the greater world, will take their power by trying to subjugate women. And because women, like I said, have historically been taught to be polite, be obedient, not to argue, blah blah. And I remember my first mother-in-law saying, like, don't argue with your husband, nice. And no, that's not me. And so that's why they try to take back power
Yeah.
um, from women. And that's why you see all this stuff happening around the world. If you look at pictures of women in Afghanistan in the 70s, they're dressed just like any
Yeah.
other women now. But that's how men without power get power. And a lot of it's got to do with education and intellect and all kinds of other things, which we are not even really going to get into because we're probably not even qualified to talk about that. But I guess what we're trying to say is that all women have had some kind of experiences like this. They have had outrage, and you are allowed to be
Yeah.
angry. I
Yeah.
had an experience about a year ago in the bank. It was just right at the beginning of January, and in my bank, you line up, and then the first person in line, but you line up horizontally, and then the first person in line gets the next teller. So I'm lined up in the bank. This guy comes up beside me, and I can tell he's gonna go straight to the teller. And he did that. And I said, no, you don't. And he goes, well, I'm lined up here, you're lined. And I'm like, no, you're not. And the guy beside me takes him on, right? And I said to the guy beside me, thank you, but I can fight my own battles. And I'm like, get back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
There you go.
there's just that entitlement that, your body is theirs if they would like to have it. And,
It's not that guy says, your body, my choice. Yeah, no, I don't think so, buddy. So so in this current cultural cycle, political cycle, the things that we're going through now, it is really, really important for all women to remember that men are not the enemy, but they are our equal. Women hold up half the sky, but we have to reclaim our power. And if you show power, always show power and strength. In your demeanor, in your stance, and everything like that, you will be less likely to be a victim.
yeah.
And if they try it once, they sure as hell won't try it again because you
Or
will
if they
get up.
tried again, you escalate.
Yeah,
Know,
exactly.
like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
this guy, I don't, well, you notice he didn't do anything until I was across the room, and it wasn't physical, it was a verbal thing, a trial balloon or whatever it was. But it's like, no, you're not. And it's so frustrating. And for younger women and for younger people who are having this put upon them, it's like, no, 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 no. And that's the thing. And tell. And that, because it was the other thing, it was like, even me as a 65-year-old woman, I'm
Yep.
like, do I tell? Like, I mean,
Yes.
I told obviously my Brent and my two friends that were right there. I told them right away. And then I was like, I'm gonna tell everyone what an asshole he is. And then I went,
Yep.
okay, I don't need to tell everyone what an asshole he is. But it did come up in conversation a couple of times. Oh, and 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 one person, a woman, seriously said to me, "Oh, just take it as a compliment." And I thought, I was like, no, it wasn't. It was awful. And then she sort of backed away from it. But then other people have actually made it after they've been outraged and horrified. Then everyone tries to make you feel better, right? And they try to lighten it up and they'll go, oh, well, hey, girl, you still got it. Or it's like, oh, I know. And it has nothing to do with anybody trying to go through my boundaries. And I understand what people are doing, right? They're trying to like make me feel better. And but that's and I understand and they the other than the person who had that as the first response, I whatever, but that's probably how she dealt with stuff for a long, long, long time because she's a little older than me again. Um, and it's and then but the it's like people are trying to, it's not like they are minimizing it, but
No.
they are trying to help you find ways to deal with it. And my way of dealing with it is I'm going to be upset, I'm going to be outraged, and I'm going to
Yep.
feel empowered. And I do feel empowered. And that's what's really important. That's one of the things I really wanted to get across today is how empowered you feel when you say no out loud and strong, when you hit them. I'm so impressed that you punched that guy when you were so young, because
Yeah,
at
and I
that
don't know
time,
why I felt, I guess, and I know why the second go around with the other guy, it was because it was. See, with the first guy, he was the best man at our wedding, which sort of put us on an even thing. But the second one, that guy was in a position of power because
yeah,
because my
very
husband
much.
literally did business for him, and it was in a very bad time. It was in the early '90s. The economic situation, especially for people in real estate, was terrible. And I felt vulnerable because of that, and I was also vulnerable because my daughter was ill, and he took advantage of it. But can you imagine if you went up to some guy and grabbed his penis? Like, what would they do? I mean, they might enjoy it, but they might not. Probably not. There would be outrage.
Well, if a guy grabbed their penis, right? That's the other thing.
Yep.
Like, because a lot of guys, well, they just think there's a meme somewhere out there I've seen recently, and it's like, if you wouldn't want a guy doing it to you, if you're a guy and you wouldn't want a guy doing it to you, don't do it to a woman. Or a guy you
Exactly.
don't know doing it to you,
Yep.
don't do it to a woman you don't know, right? Like,
Oh, you don't have the right to do that. The only person who has the right to do that is your sexual partner, and even sometimes
if
they
you
don't have the
tell
right.
them, yes,
And it's
it's all
okay.
about the
Yeah.
consent.
It's all about
And oh, so anybody who's, like folks, like be empowered, be empowered. And I may not be as I may not have taken as strong an action as you would have taken, and bravo for that too, for you, because like,
you were in a I understand that you're in a public place and the problem with making a scene is that people may interpret you as being the bad person. So you have to keep the scene somewhat contained in that particular situation, right?
well, and I mean, I was very physical, which
Yeah.
was very surprising. He was very shocked. And then, you know, to follow up with don't try that. I know the moves, right? But then he kept it going.
Because he wants to reclaim the power that you took
Yeah,
away from him. Yeah.
yes.
You
And
know, no, not going to happen. And I'm very, how do I put it? Women's issues are at the forefront for me for a variety of reasons. And sometime at some future episode, we're going to discuss. I'm going to tell a story of my mother, and I think it's a story that all women should hear because it kind of touches quite a bit on what we're talking about
yeah.
today in terms of women in power and women as they perceive themselves in society, and why we don't want to go back to the dark ages of what defined femininity and masculinity, because you can be a feminine, strong woman. It's got nothing to do with being, how do I
Nothing.
put it? It's got nothing to do with being feminine.
No.
You're
Feminine.
feminine. I'm very feminine, but I am tough as nails.
Yeah,
Yeah. I got a guy walking down the sidewalk the other day, and I'm walking my two dogs. One's on a waist leash, my girls are very enthusiastic. If you come near them,
they
they'll
are.
jump and they want to kiss you. This guy, I could tell I had trouble ahead of me. He was coming on the sidewalk, walking right towards me. Didn't move to the other sidewalk. If you don't like dogs, move to the other side of the street. And so I realized he wasn't going to do that. So I pulled over onto the boulevard, and then he walks by, and little Freya lunges at him, and he turns around and he shoots me a filthy look. And I said to him, they're very friendly, and he goes, well, they don't seem friendly. And I said, they're not crocodiles, they're wearing pink sweaters. Like, really? And then such an asshole crosses to the other side of the street. Then he crosses to the, he's a parking cheater. People park there to escape paying the hospital parking fees, which will help the hospital. No, they park around here and they try and get away with it, and hope for the best and hope they don't get caught. So he was a parking cheater. But so the point being is, he didn't have to be an asshole. When I was walking yesterday, the guy, friendly, moved away over and said, be careful, it's really icy.
And that's another thing. Like there are a lot of men who have become aware. So, you when was the last time you walked down the street by yourself at night, right? But when you're doing that, and if a guy is walking behind you, it's horrible, right? Everything goes on high alert. You've already got your keys, probably like that. Because that's how we were brought up, right? And but a guy who is aware will cross the street.
across the street.
It's like, so they won't follow behind you, right? Like there's things that I have seen people do that have made me feel better, and I mean, it's like, but it's not right that we always have to be on alert, and it's not right. So I think we just have to keep working and not letting it go backwards. I mean, some of the stuff that's happening right now, it,
Well, and exactly. And again, a lot of it's happening because women are getting stronger. Those men with poor egos or whatever feel threatened. So a couple of things. First of all, like we said, express your strength, express your outrage. Don't put up with it. Tell your story. And if you have sons or young men in your life, model for them how they should treat women.
yeah.
I warned my boys when they were young, if I ever catch you treating a woman badly, you're going to answer to me, because I'm not letting you do that to a woman. And as far as I know, neither of them behaves like an asshole, which is really important to me. So, train, teach your sons and grandsons to how to treat women. And I think that's about all we have to say on the topic today.
Yeah, I think we've brought it up into the light. And also don't be afraid to press charges. In I had a girlfriend, I was so impressed with her. She was like 18 and some stranger grabbed her on the bus. She pressed charges.
I would have pressed charge if I had been if that had happened to me now, I would have pressed charges. The other thing I wanted to say, and about is this guy, is that after it came to the forefront again, I started I knew he was getting older, and I kept checking the paper, and he finally passed away last year. And the obituaries coming from his loving family, it just sickened me, because I was so tempted to reach out to his family and express my outrage. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, that would be an asshole move on my part.
Yeah.
But I was outraged by how, how his granddaughters thought he was just so cute and so sweet and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, who knows what he had done to them. He was a predator.
Yep. Yep. It's like, so we just, folks, hold your power. There's a great song. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's what happens when a woman takes power? What happens when she won't step down? What happens when a woman takes power? And it's like, it's a great song. So I highly suggest you check it out. It's really, and it's like a lot of body percussion going on, stomping, and it's very powerful. I'll see if I
Yep.
can find the link and maybe put it on the comments or somewhere. Yeah.
Yep. So
Thank you
yeah,
for this morning, Leea.
I thank you because I'm glad you brought this up because this has been sort of unconsciously a big part of my life and yeah, and I just and I, it affected me for a very long time, and I didn't realize to what extent how much it dragged me down and how much it affected me.
Yeah.
So, but I have reclaimed my power. I got my warrior on.
Woo, we got our warrior on. I like it.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, my
Okay.
darling, I will
Yes,
see you soon and be well,
maybe.
everyone. Like and subscribe, share if you'd like to as well.
Yes.
Okay. Ciao.
Oh.